Yo, welcome back. SJB from SJB Speaks. And this is episode 5 from our Do It Scared series, which is letter 20 from my book, Letters to a Dreamer. And so basically the way that this works, so we already did our Sunday reading for the letter, but it starts with the Sunday reading, and then there are 12 episodes after each Sunday reading. So this is episode 5. And this episode, let me look at my notes here. So this episode is called Failure is a Part of the Process. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And then I start with the passage, I start with the reflection, and then I end with the passage from the book. So it'll all be kind of together as I read it. But that's what I'm about to read now if you're new to these videos. So failure is a part of the process. So I wrote, it took me a long time to understand that failure was a part of the process. It was a part of the process that I needed to embrace. You will waste a lot of time and energy if you focus too much on trying to course correct. So here's the thing. We all set out with an original vision in our mind and what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build, what we're trying to accomplish. And we have it all mapped out, some of us, and we take the time to even write it down. But it never goes exactly according to the plan, right? There are twists and turns and detours along the way. And so with that, you have to understand that failure is a part of the process, and it's a part of the learning process. And so, I was always someone who was afraid of failure. And so I never wanted to fail in public or in private or like nothing. I did not like failing. I didn't see it as I didn't see it as a data point, I didn't see it as information. And so when I started to see the failure as information, it shifted my thinking. Because instead of saying, okay, well, this failed, this didn't work, so it must have been stupid, or I must not have been thinking about it right, scrap the whole thing and start over, I started saying, okay, that didn't work. What adjustments do I need to make in order to make it work? And so instead of seeing the whole thing as a bust, focusing on small adjustments and pivots that I could take is what really helped me to really stay sane. During times when nothing was working. I mean, nothing. I would get on, I don't know how many calls, and they just would not go well, and I wouldn't get the client, wouldn't get the project, and I would go right back to the drawing board and say, oh, it must be the offer. The offer is just trash and I need to scrap the whole thing. And that wasn't necessarily the case. So, I think that you have to be willing to accept that failure is a part of it. It comes with it, you're testing, you're experimenting. And if you come in to anything with a rigid mindset, then you're not going to enjoy it. And you're not going to find joy in it because, you're too busy trying to stick to this rigid plan that you've created in your head and one that doesn't have any failure in it, So, I don't know. I just think about all the times that I failed. And I can't think of one time that I failed that I'm not now grateful for. That's what I was just thinking about. Like, I can't think of one moment where, and in the moment, it didn't feel great, of course. But looking back, being where I am now, knowing what I know, and now having taken some of those failures and applied that knowledge, what I call lived wisdom, right? Because it's like you can go through something and not get the lesson from it and continue to repeat that cycle. But the lived wisdom is when you go through an experience, you extract the lesson from it, and you apply that to your life. You know, now that wisdom is being, you know, is in effect in real time, essentially. But anyway, so I forgot what I was even saying. I was talking about, oh yeah. So I failed a lot. You know, a lot of things didn't work. And I think about that often. You know, some of those failures that I thought would end me, it was like, had that not happened, you know, those are my had that not happened stories now. Had this not happened, I would not be doing this. I would have never tried this. I would have never been, you know, whatever. So I say all that to say that even in your failure, even in things not working out or going according to plan, there's a blessing there. And it's your job to figure out what that blessing is. And sometimes the blessing, now watch this, for me, at least in my experience, sometimes the blessing has been that I still have something to be grateful for, even in this moment. Even in this dark moment, I have something to be grateful for. I have something to focus my mind on that makes me feel a sense of gratitude and joy and peace. Whoa, what a blessing. So just know that failure is going to come with it. It's what makes the story. It's what makes the product better. It's what makes everything better is failure. You know, you can't avoid it. If you get into anything and try to avoid it, it's just not going to work out for you. You know, I mean, I remember how long it took me to get over my first major failure, which was my first consulting firm going up in smoke. And I remember that took me forever, what seemed like forever. It really was only like a 2 to 5 year period, which is kind of a long time. But anyway, it took me a long time to get over it because so much of my identity was wrapped up in that business, in that company, in the persona that I had created in order to run that business effectively and be successful as a consultant in that particular field. But now I look at it as the greatest blessing because let's just say that I was allowed to be even more successful in that field. I would have had to amplify the fake version of myself in order to sustain that thing. And that isn't what I was called to do. It's not what any of us are really called to do. So I was pulled out of it. And at the time, I did not see it as a great blessing. You know, I saw it as an embarrassment. I was ashamed of it for a long time. And it was also like, oh, the imposter's caught in a sense, right? Like, we knew your ass didn't know what you was doing. But because I was willing to try, I mean, I always kind of landed on my feet, you know, until I didn't. And that journey was one that I had to go through in order to appreciate the lessons that failure teaches us. And it humbled me, man, humbled me. Life humbled me, really, but it humbled me, you know. So going on that journey again of who am I after failure? You know, what does this mean for me? What does this mean about me, etc. Right? And it doesn't mean anything. It's just information, right? It's an experience. It's an experience that we all have to go through. And no person who's done anything great has ever avoided it. So you might as well embrace the shit and just keep going. You know, the only difference between you and the person that you admire most, who you think is so successful, is they just didn't give up. It's not because they're smarter than you. It's not because they're, you know, none of that, at the end of the day, none of that matters. They did not quit. That is it. They did not give up. And so, and you're not going to give up, you know, you won't give up. You won't give up. I didn't give up. I wanted to give up, but I didn't give up. And I'm very happy that I didn't give up. So don't give up. You'll be very happy that you didn't. You'll thank yourself later. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Just keep going. Embrace the failure. Embrace the information. Embrace the lessons that it's teaching you. Apply them. Utilize them. Allow them to make you stronger and to empower you. And to empower and inspire others as well, because there's information for them there as well, you know. So don't be afraid to talk about your failures and the things that you didn't do, you know, the right way. But yeah, you know, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and yeah, till next time, be well, stay safe, and many blessings. Peace.